Okay. So, welcome to everyone who's checking this out via the live stream. You missed some of the fun that we had a little bit earlier here. But we're about to get into the main event here of this presentation. And I'm supposed to mention this live stream is actually a good preview of a vidwheel Creator Network Zoom Meetup. If you ever want to get the full experience, join us at our next meeting, which is actually on July 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be kicking off our new monthly topic of success with video during that meeting. And the event itself will be published on the vidwheel company page on LinkedIn. So you can find the event there. All right, so now on to the main event. Tonight, we will continue our current monthly theme of analytics, and we'll do that with a presentation by Dylan Staniszewski, who is a digital marketing analyst with Babyscripts. Dylan, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to this group. And if you are ready, we'll go ahead and fire up lights, camera, analytics. Why video should be part of your marketing. What do you think? You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. You can go ahead and share whenever you're ready.
All righty. Let me share my screen with you guys, and we'll jump right in. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So welcome everyone. Lights, camera, analytics. So thank you guys for having me today. Neil, great job on pronouncing my last name. Very impressed with that.
I took a shot. I got it right. All right.
You did. You really did. Most people don't. I'm like, oh, don't bother. It's fine. But anyway, so I'm excited to be here tonight. So today we're going to cover 3 topics. We're going to talk about magic metrics. What are we focusing on? And then we're going to wrap up with a little bit more technical knowledge about track, analyze, optimize, repeat. So I'm sure many of you guys have been paying attention throughout the pandemic. You know, I was reading an article from HubSpot that says 91% of marketers feel that the pandemic has made video more important for their brands. And I definitely agree with that, just from my own personal experiences and what I've seen within the community. Companies are really starting to jump on that video bandwagon, which is great. So hopefully, you know, you guys find this information useful and you get some knowledge that can sort of help you direct where you're taking your videos. So magic metrics. There's no such thing as a magic metric. And if you ask me about a magic metric, I will cringe on the inside and I just might not answer you. So just like in video, we use a green screen, magic is not real. We're really looking for meaningful metrics. And today, hopefully I can help you guys focus on qualifying your metrics to turn them into meaningful data points for your company. My approach to marketing is to take a holistic approach. I think, you know, breaking down or distilling anything into a single data point does a disservice to both you and your company. So you need to be constantly aware of your customer's journey, you know, how they're finding your brand and, you know, the steps that they take after that. So maintain awareness and knowledge of your customer and their interest in behaviors at all times. That's probably one of like the best tips that I can give you from an analytics and a marketing perspective. So quality versus quantity. Usually when you think about magic metrics, you have people throwing out, you know, watch time. They talk about how long your video needs to be, you know, the average completion rate of people watching your video, audience retention rates, rewatches. And, you know, these are all really great metrics. So I'm not saying don't pay attention to these because these will definitely help you optimize your video. They'll help you, you know where to place your call to action within your video, etc. But in terms of paying attention to a single metric, no one metric is better than the other. So how do we go about getting meaningful metrics? When we're talking about meaningful metrics, context is everything. So how can we take the data points that we talked about on the last slide and qualify them? So for this, you're going to want to think about, your click-through rate, your cost per click, but you're also going to want to think about what the average click-through rate for your industry is and how you're measuring up. You're going to want to think about like what your audience size is, who your audience is, where they're coming from, and their location. If you're a brick and mortar store and you have 10,000 views on a video, but you're based in DC and all your traffic is coming from, let's say, LA. First of all, you might want to move to LA. Second of all, you're going to want to re-optimize your video because you're probably doing something wrong. So just really thinking about being conscious of who we're making our videos for, what platform we're using, and then, after that, really evaluating the data that we have. So what are we focusing on? As a company, you should have a couple personas in mind. Most small businesses have anywhere from 1 to 5. If you're a medium or a larger company, you can have 10 to 10,000 personas. So who is your current audience? Who do you want buying your product, seeing your videos? And, who's your current audience and who's your target audience and how are they different? Because they might not be the same and they probably aren't. So how can we refine your current audience and sort of move them and make them into your target audience? Leverage the people that you already have watching your videos, or if you're starting from scratch, be really conscious of who you want to target with these. And then you want to think about your marketing sales funnel. What are your target conversions? What are the actions that you want people to take or take away from your videos? Are you teaching? Are you going for education? Are you teaching them about a product? Are you trying to get them to buy something? Because those are two very different approaches. So, if you're educating someone, okay, so you educate them. Do you want them to share that video? If you're selling something, okay, they're watching this video. Do you want them to then go buy something? You need to be really conscious of what that call to action is, where it is in your video, in your description, and be really strategic about that. And then you need to think about, what does your current behavior flow look like? If your marketing sales funnel is very short and you want people to take 3 actions before making a purchase, but you have people watching your videos and then bouncing right away and never coming back, you're going to need to restructure your approach to that. So where do we get this information? Where does this initial data come from? If you're a small or medium-sized company, you don't need fancy software to give you these key metrics or to give you these insights. Google allows you to track this kind of thing in Google Analytics. So I don't know how many people are familiar with Google Analytics or how many people use it already, but this is a great free resource. I talk later about Google and YouTube being the most prominent search engines that people use. And so if one of the major search engines is giving you a free tool, why not use it and take advantage of it? I personally like using Google because it allows you to use custom audiences. You can add cookies to your user's browser, and then after that, you can track their behavior. You can track what pages they're going to before they convert. You can track their site time. You can track what time of day that they're active. And all of this can help you when you're posting your videos. If you're interested in live video, when is the highest number of people active on your site? Are they active at 1 a.m.? Are they active at 6 a.m.? Or are they active at 5 o'clock in the afternoon? That's going to really help you when you post your video, from the get-go. And then you can get really granular with your analytics. You can make custom reports. You can do A/B testing on landing pages. If you have a YouTube video that you're hosting on a landing page, try out 2 or 3 different versions of that landing page and see what sticks with that. And then you can also use the keyword planner. Even though the keyword planner is part of Google's ads function, you don't actually have to be running ads to use the keyword planner. And I'm going to come back to keywords a little bit later because they are so, so important. And I know that sounds a little bit strange when we're talking about video, but there are a lot of words associated with videos that you might not think about. So what are these words? Search engines versus social media. So a search engine, again, It's not magic, it's semantics, it's words, it's behavior, it's data. So Google and YouTube are the two most popular search engines in the world. Google owns YouTube, so it's basically just Google. How do they figure out what's relevant? They do this in 3 ways: crawling, indexing, and ranking. So when you create a website, you have all these website pages, you have your menu, you have your submenu, and this creates a site map that you submit to Google, so Google knows how to crawl your website. The same way we do that for websites, they offer the same functionality for videos. So for videos, you can create a sitemap for your video that basically tells Google, this is the information in my video. Here is my thumbnail. This is the content that it has. If you have adult content, you can specify adult content. There are a lot of things that you can tell the search engine, so the bots can figure all of that out ahead of time. And like I said, it's all free. You add this to your website. You can use schema to tell the search engine certain things. And I know this sounds really technical, so I tried to add a couple resources at the end so that you guys can go in and look at this later. But, Google offers all of these, basically this insight into their lexicon of how they're understanding your videos. And you really want to take advantage of that. You don't want to miss an opportunity, because the majority of your traffic, I can guess right off the bat, it's coming from Google. And for YouTube, like I said, never waste an opportunity to cross your T's and dot your I's. And that's starting from your file name of your video. That's before it even gets to YouTube. What are you calling that video? And again, keywords, they're not just for Google. You want them in YouTube as well. So what do you call that video? What do you title that video? Use the keyword planner to inform those decisions. You want to make sure that you include the title, you include the categories, you tag, you add a thumbnail, you add the description, and make sure it's an accurate description. I know buzzwords are great, but we've all clicked on that article that's like the top 5 things that you should be paying attention to video marketing right now. And then you read this fluffy article that you're just like, I wasted 10 seconds of my life. A couple things about that. First of all, that article was written by a marketer and they did a really good job. Second of all, you don't want to be that person. You want to be relevant and intentional with your content. Because YouTube and Google use a learning AI to provide users with content. So they're going to feed users content based on their previous view and engagement history. So if you're targeting people who are interested in flowers, you're going to want to make videos about flowers. And that's distilling it down to like a really basic, like A to B, but that's the kind of logic you want to be using on the internet. So when we're talking about your website versus YouTube versus social media, on the internet, everything is connected. So your website should have a symbiotic relationship with your YouTube channel. Even if you're optimizing for YouTube, you want to be hosting things on YouTube that you embed on your website. First of all, it cuts down on load time so that you're not hosting these giant video files on your website. And second of all, traffic is constantly going from one source to the other, to the other, to the other. So it's all going back and forth. And so, when you have a bunch of views and you have a big following, that's great. But when you're a business, your conversions are your bottom line. That's what makes you money at the end of the day. And without accurate tracking, your conversions they're not meaningless, but you're really missing out on a big part of that puzzle piece. So you want to know where your traffic is coming from and what they're doing. And social media is a completely different animal. So if most of your traffic is actually coming from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you want to be optimizing for those specific channels. You don't just want to be posting a video that you spent all of this time optimizing for YouTube and then just kind of like throwing it out there on the other social media channels. You're kind of shooting yourself in the foot at that point. And if you don't have a big social media following, the beautiful thing about social media is use somebody else's, use an influencer strategy, capitalize on somebody else's audience to get your message out there. All right, so we've got a quick poll here. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are using tracking codes? If you don't know what a tracking code is, that's totally fine. But all the social media platforms have tracking codes that you can put on your website. So I ask this because, if you're using a service like Google Analytics, that's great. But if you're just using the on-platform analytics for something like Facebook, you can do a lot of similar things. Facebook now allows you to track events, unless you're healthcare, which I work in. So you got to be kind of careful with that. It'll allow you to track, are people filling out forms? What pages are they on? And Twitter can provide, not great analytics for their on platform, but it's better than nothing. Instagram is my least favorite analytics.
Dylan, can you see that? I think it should have popped up on your screen, but if not, I can give you the count. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
I think everybody's in, except because I launched the poll, I couldn't vote in the poll. So, all right. So I don't know if if you can see it, you can.
I actually can't see what everyone put.
All right. Let's see. Then I'll just give you the the answers. So, are you using tracking codes? We have 2 votes for yes, which is 22%. I'm going to give it 2 votes for some things because I'm going to put myself in that category. 3 no's and 3 what is a tracking code.
All right, good.
So it's pretty even spread there.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what a tracking code is, a tracking code is something that you put in the head tag of your website. So it's like the first thing that loads. And basically, oh, there it is. I can see the results.
Yeah, I popped it up. I figured it out. I'm learning this as we go.
So anyway, tracking codes, like a company like Facebook will give you a tracking code to put in the head of your website. And so that basically, it cuts down on the amount of traffic coming from Facebook that isn't attributed to Facebook. It also allows you to use Facebook's on-platform analytics to look at the people who are going to your website from Facebook. And it's really useful if you're using ads. So if you're using ads and you're one of the people that doesn't know what tracking codes are, I definitely recommend putting the tracking code on your website because it does a lot for retargeting people who have, if you have your video on a landing page and someone with a Facebook account goes to a landing page, you can retarget them with an ad. So again, it's not magic, it's metrics. So these are all cookies that are ending up in your browser. So if you ever want to get rid of all of the people that are tracking you on the internet, clear your cache, browse in incognito. Otherwise, people like me have access to a lot of data. We might not be able to distill it down to you specifically, but as the user, it's going to feel like we know. So for Facebook is one of the most popular video platforms behind YouTube, apparently, for marketers. Facebook recently made changes to their algorithm. I guess maybe 2019 is not the most recent, but they are prioritizing high quality video and especially live videos. So for your live video, if you are live streaming, a lot of the people who follow your page will get a notification if you're doing a live video, which is why a lot of marketers find that to be a really successful strategy. And even though, all these platforms are making changes all the time, Facebook, consistently rewards these 4 basically identifiers of content. So the relationship of the person that the post is from. So if you're a user and someone whose page that you interact with a lot posts a video, you are more likely to be fed that content. Content type, what kind of content do you interact with as a user? Is it videos? Is it images? So if someone watches a lot of videos, Facebook's going to feed them videos. Popularity. How are people who have already interacted with this content responding? Are they liking it? Are they sharing it? Facebook rewards that kind of interaction. It's really hard if you're just starting out from scratch. If you're starting out with basically no following, you might want to put a little bit of ad spend, even if it's just $100 a week for your first month. If you're being strategic about it, that's a good way to boost your following in a smart way. But you're going to want to use your analytics to inform that strategy, because if you're just throwing money at Facebook, they'll take it and they'll spend it, and it might not be well spent. So that's one of the reasons that tracking codes are so important. And then finally, recency. Social media is all about the here and now, which is why even if you have a lot of really good content, if you're a company that has, years and years worth of content, you might want to start repurposing some of that, making it new, or reposting it even, because if it's recent, social media loves it. Moving on to Instagram. I don't know how many of you are big Instagram users, but Instagram has made a lot of changes to their user interface within the past 2 years. Right now, their Instagram TV icon is actually where the make a post button used to be. And if you're like me, you end up on Instagram TV a lot, even when you don't want to be there. So, video is the future. And I think I said on one of my last slides, for years and years and years, social media reports have been saying video is the future, video is the future. Well, video is the future, but the future is indeed now. Instagram is now allowing you to post longer content. Before you could only post a minute on your story if you were lucky. Now you can post your story, you can post to Instagram TV. Like I said, it favors longer content. You can categorize the content, and then Instagram will feed that content to people who are interested in a product that aligns with the categories that you're talking about. So you're going to want to take advantage of that. LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn for my current company. Like I said to people in my breakout group, it's a femtech company, so we work in healthcare. So a lot of the people that we're marketing to are working professionals. So this is a really good platform. They've made a lot of strides within the past couple of years to become a social media giant. I remember when I first started using LinkedIn, it was me and a couple of my classmates, and no one else was really on the platform. Now it's really starting to pick up speed, especially in terms of, job searching. And the nice thing about LinkedIn is you have to say who you're working for and what your industry is. So if you're targeting people, like I think Paul works in insurance, if you're targeting people who work within a certain industry or have a certain job title, LinkedIn is definitely a platform where you're going to want to put a lot more energy. And their video options are surprisingly robust. But one of the major things that you want to think about when you think about LinkedIn is native video versus embedded video. For their native video, they do autoplay, you can do captions, you can even do audience targeting, so you can target, that industry, that job title, and definitely make use of hashtags as well. If you're doing embedded video, I don't believe it does the autoplay, but LinkedIn definitely favors native video over embedded video. So just something to keep in mind. And for social media or just any platform online, one size does not fit all, which is why you want to be really conscious of where your audience is coming from. If your audience is coming from Instagram, but you're doing a regular horizontal video that's optimized for, LinkedIn or YouTube. If it's for YouTube, it could be like a longer 20-minute video. But if you've got tons of people coming from Instagram, switch to a vertical format, make it shorter. Take advantage of that. You want to know who your customer is, where they're coming from, and where you want them to go and how to get them there. Like I said, the web, everything on the web is connected. Even though all these platforms might seem similar in functionality, they all cater to a slightly different audience. So make sure it's the audience that you want. The thing I want you guys to take away from today is create with purpose and track with purpose. Make sure the metrics that you're using and you're evaluating are meaningful metrics. Know your audience, track accurately, optimize, analyze, and repeat, and do it again and again and again. There is no such thing as overanalyzing and over-optimizing. And in the age of social media, repost content. If it doesn't take the first time, try again. Look at what went wrong, look at the data, which is why the tracking codes are important, and then try again and see what happened. All right. So I don't think we have a poll for this one, but I'm going to send this presentation to Neil afterwards and he can send it to you guys. Feel free to take this poll on your own time. this has my information on it as well. And thank you guys.
Excellent. Well done. Yeah, why didn't I make that second poll? What was I thinking there?
Data, I need the data.
I know, I blew it. I wonder if I can whip one up here. I don't think I can do it live. They don't let me, but awesome. All right. Well, we could do an informal, or we could do whatever. So
I'm just going to pretend you all found that incredibly helpful. It was the best thing you've heard.
I do run a different poll at the end of the meeting that I'll share with you, Dylan, which is along those same lines. So we do have a little bit more time before the meeting is over. So if anybody has questions, we'll just keep it simple. Just unmute yourself and ask. And if I'm ignoring you, raise your hand or something, and we'll go from there. Does anybody have a question? Otherwise, I've got some. All right, Paul's got one.
Regarding Instagram, I'm not on Instagram. On Facebook, there's targeted market for seniors, Medicare. There's a lot of that done on Facebook. I don't have a clue about Instagram. So, is there a senior element on there in Instagram?
If there is, it's very small. Facebook owns Instagram, so you get a lot of the same targeting options when you're running ads. You can actually run the ads on Instagram through your Facebook business portal. So you'll get a lot of the same targeting options. I don't know, because on Instagram or on Facebook, you can't specify insurance companies. You can only do people who are interested in topics like Medicaid, because technically that's PHI and you can't ask that on Facebook. But if I were you, I actually would not be targeting Instagram nearly as much. I would stick to LinkedIn. I would stick to Facebook.
See, LinkedIn would be a target for me for recruiting, which I want to recruit agents too across the country. But for marketing to sell, either for those turning 65 looking for Medicare options, maybe I'm missing it on LinkedIn, how that would be. I see LinkedIn more of business to business.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. If you're looking for an older crowd, I would definitely stick to Facebook and even YouTube, actually, because you'll get a lot of older people who end up on YouTube looking for tutorials for stuff.
Yeah, that's why that's why I'm here to hopefully create a YouTube channel also. Yeah.
And YouTube, just to add to that, of course, like Dylan mentioned, has such a strong performance when it comes to organic search as well. Yeah, always a good idea. Excellent.
Yeah, and if you're looking to spend money, you can actually run video ads through Google as well and take advantage of their network as well. So it's not just on Google, it's on partner sites as well. So if you're interested in that, Google would actually probably provide you with the most refined target criteria, aside from Facebook.
Okay.
Excellent. Great question. Does anybody else have anything they need to know? And I think I brought this up earlier, but if I didn't, I usually do. If you want to ask a question after we go off of YouTube Live, we'll probably have a few minutes for that as well. All right. Wow. If nobody else has a question, I'm going to jump in with my own. So, all right, I'm going to check one more time. No, nothing. All right. I actually, in a question that I used in the last presentation with Kanishka, I asked him about a magic metric. Is that how it ended up in your presentation?
It is, because I watched that and I was like, no
magic metric. Yes.
No magic metric. It's all about your business and what you're interested in.
That's what everybody wants, though, is a magic metric.
I know, it's why I'm very much like, no, like, don't do that.
So because you specifically said I shouldn't use that language, what I will ask is, do you think there's a single most important metric, specifically to video, that you would key on if you could only pick one?
If I could only pick one, I would say it's the conversion rate from your video. It's
Excellent.
People who watch that video and then converted, whether that be filling out a form, sending you an email, or downloading something, whatever action they took that you wanted them to take. If I had to pick one, I would say conversion rate.
That is the correct answer, of course, right?
So.
Awesome. Anybody else? I'll give us all one last chance for a question.
Yeah, I have something quickly. It's sort of like
go for it.
I'll be open. Is that as a one-man sort of small teeny business shop, like this feels very overwhelming, because again, you mentioned you work for a larger company. This is what you do probably almost all the time. But again, like I know a lot of us on the call are sort of just us, maybe looking at somebody else. So it's like we're handling proposals, sales, marketing, content creation, all those sort of things. So if you were talking to, again, my company is just me, right? So I do everything from marketing, proposals, content creation, all those sort of things. I mean, I have a YouTube channel and videos and those sort of things. But I guess in your perspective, for like a small company, 1 or 2 person shop, like two questions. Number one is like, where do you sort of recommend we begin on identifying like what kind of content to create and where to put it? And the second question sort of is, what are the metrics that we should be looking at? Like the sort of simple things that an idiot like me can sort of figure out to find stuff on.
So let's see. So I actually, even though I work for a bigger company, I'm usually like a one-man show. So I'm doing anything from producing to analyzing to making. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts, so I end up making a lot of the stuff that ends up being marketed. So I would say do a lot of the legwork up front, analyze, like I said, look at who your audience is, write down your personas, figure out what they're interested in. And if you really don't know where to start in terms of content, either look at one of your competitors and see what they're doing, or ask your audience, what do you guys want to see? What would be the most helpful? And you can do that just like, I don't know what your business is, but if you ever talk to a customer, be like, hey, I'm thinking about like doing this for a video. Is this something that you would be interested in? And be strategic with the content. You don't need to be like busting out a video like every week. If you make like 1 video a month or even like 1 video a quarter, that's really relevant to what you do, that can be enough. And like I said, cross your T's and dot your I's when you do make that video. Include the caption, have the call to action, link it back to your website. Make sure that when you post that video, you have a clear action that you want them to take.
And how about like even with the metrics piece? So like if I have Google Analytics, like I use some other things, but again, you're always sort of trying to figure out like, conversions always matter, right? So, the example is like I put a video up, someone calls me and says, hey, I watched your video, I want to hire you. I'm like, boom, thank you so much for actually calling me. So, but like, I guess trying to figure out like, what metrics do you think that a small company should be looking at to give us an indicator of, hey, is this tracking up or down?
I like to look at the traffic source. So like where the people that are coming to your website are coming from. Where are they coming from? And then what pages are they spending the most time on? So what pages on your website are really resonating with people? Where are they getting the most value from your website? And I would
traffic. Yeah, so traffic source and landing pages, or just the pages they're spending time on. So like if you see if a high bounce rate on one page, they're getting there, but they're bouncing.
I would actually maybe not look at bounce rate. If you're a small company, look at the most popular pages. Maybe don't pay attention to bounce rate right away, especially since, you might have a really high bounce rate from some pages, because bounce rate is someone who has come to your website and they've spent a single session on your page and then left. So if you don't have your page optimized to direct them to other pages of your website, maybe they ended up on that page, they got all the information they needed to know, and they left. So, that can be a misnomer.
I'm glad bounce rate came up because that's one of that's a very misunderstood metric, right? People think it means that people come to your page and they leave right away, where in fact it means that they didn't advance to other pages. So yeah, that's excellent.
Can I throw one more weird thing in there that also to be done?
Sure.
Like it's funny. So I've had my site since 2007. I got a bunch of content to put up there, and I get still a decent amount of track from Pinterest and like my Pinterest analytics. Like sometimes I'll look, because the analytics are there for Pinterest. I'm barely on there anymore, but I still like drop stuff in there and I come back to it. It can be anywhere from like 21,000 like per month, like folks like watching the pins. It's a weird, and Pinterest has great analytics, but it's sort of, it's just interesting. I'm always like, Pinterest is ranking so high on my stuff. Like
I'm
it's always
so glad you brought that up.
I mean, I'm a consulting service firm, right? So it's like I put videos up and images, but I go to Pinterest and I'm like, look at these Pinterest numbers. I'm like, it's interesting. So
yeah, Pinterest does a really good job of getting their content and optimizing it for search engine. It is so bizarre. Like I said, I used to work at a rehab facility and I would stuff to Pinterest all the time and we would get tons of traffic from it. But that is one of the places where you have to be really careful because you have to look at the quality of traffic that's coming from Pinterest. So you're getting all this traffic. That's really great. And if you need to boost, your site's reputation with Google, if you need that backlink strategy, that's great. But if these people are just kind of like fluffy people and they're not, if it's for a post, if it's for a post with a picture of a family and you're getting all this traffic because your picture is really cute, because Pinterest is a visual platform, but they're not actually doing anything when they get to your site, that could actually be not so good for your rankings. So that's why you really have to pay attention and be intentional with what you're putting out there.
Yeah, it always surprised me. I mean, I still put links in there. I write new blog posts, new video. I still put it in Pinterest. It's going to park it there. It's going to hit multiple channels. But again, I look at those analytics and I kind of go like, this is just amazing to see it. So yeah, Pinterest gets a big lead.
It's really good for blogs, I will say, because blogs, you're going to get a high bounce rate anyway. People are probably only spending a couple seconds on those pages regardless. So if you're going to post anything there, definitely blog stuff, but be intentional with your titles and your descriptions. So we were talking to one woman who does activewear, definitely make use of Pinterest for that.
Do you recommend any sites or tools for keyword or targeted? I know I use Yoast through my stuff for SEO pieces. Do you recommend that or anything else on the content piece?
I've used Yoast. I know people who like Moz. I use the keyword planner on Google, honestly, most. And there are a couple free ones out there too. I've heard people using, I don't know if it's free or not, but SEM Rush, those kinds of things for keywords.
Yeah, SEM Rush, I have that. It's free. You get a decent amount of feedback on that. Sorry, Neil, you want to say something?
No, to an extent, it's free.
Yeah.
No, you got it.
I can see my top 12 to 15 tracking keywords. I can see my top pages. I think it's 12 to 15 top. You can see competitor ranking. You can see traffic. You can see sort of keyword differentiation. You can drop competitors in there too for free and do competitive comparison for free. So I use it for some comparison pieces. And sometimes it's just me finding a competitor and wanting to flex to say that I'm doing better than them. So it makes my ego feel better. So I'll be open about that.
Sometimes that's what you need to do better as a marketer. But I will also say, don't bother paying for one of those services if you're not actually going to use that information. If you're not actually going to spend a lot of time paying attention to that, if you just want it for I need to know 10 keywords, use the Google one. It's free. Google is the place where everybody is. Just use that. Don't pay for a service. Don't waste your time or your money.
Awesome. All right, I am going to step in here. If Dylan's willing to stay a little later, we can continue the Q&A, but I am going to say goodbye to